Hi, I'm John, and these are the rambles of an educated ignorance.
This is part two of this rumble.
One solution might be, and I don't know if it's possible, maybe it's not possible, but maybe it is, time will tell, to take individual action. This is not going to come from the politicians or think tanks or associations or non-governmental organizations. This, I think, has to come from the people. The soldier in the front has to say, I don't want to kill the man in front of me. I don't want to kill that people in that region with this missile. Because there's still not everything ruled by machines. There's still people behind the decisions. And the same way in ancient war or modern war, there were people that went to the trenches or to the battlefield and kill other fellow men. Today, there are still people in the front killing each other and people flying fighter jets and operating drones and firing rockets that are killing other fellow men. So I think that one solution could be a personal decision. I don't want to kill. I don't care what my superior thinks or says or what the president thinks or says. I am not going to kill a fellow human being. Then the people in power will have the only choice to find another solution because they are not going to come to the we know they're not going to come to the field to fight the war because they don't want to put their lives at stake. So they will have to find another solution. Is this possible? I don't know. Maybe there is people that, because of their nature, education, or whatever, they just don't care. You know, they are satisfied being in the army, in a private armed group or organization, and can be hired to kill people. This is the way they live, they want to live, and they don't care. Some other people that are convinced that they are doing the best for their own country and they go kill people just because they are told to do so. So these people might continue to live like this, obeying either an external authority, their internal motivations, and then violence is going to continue to exist. Or maybe there's going to be a global consciousness and thought, and people are going to say, I don't want to kill the person in front of me. There should be another way because there's so much pain and so much suffering in doing so that there should be another way. And then it might change. There was this episode during the Second or First World War in which uh, the Allies and the Germans make a truce for Christmas, I think, or New Year, and Germans and Allies were talking and exchanging, I don't know, pictures or comments or playing football or whatever. And then the officers had to force them, I think it even pointed again at them, to go back to the trenches and kill the fellow human beings in front of them with whom they've been exchanging pictures about their beloved uh, people back home. People didn't want to do it. The soldiers didn't want to do it because it's so much painful and harmful and distressing and awful. Killing other human beings that they just didn't want to do it. And I wonder what would have happened if those soldiers had access to a global communication system that we have nowadays with internet and different applications and means of communication to communicate between the trenches and along several hundreds of thousands of kilometers and say, we are not going back to the front. We are not going to fire another bullet. And people in the other trench would say the same. I just wonder. Of course, there's always this thought, yeah, but if you are a peacemaker on your trench and the people in the other trench, the enemy is not going to follow, well, you're going to be massacred and you're going to be killed. Your beloved are going to be killed. And your country or region or whatever are going to be taken. So you better do stand there and kill the man in front of you. Well, but that's the key thing. The thing is that we should all do it, and the same way that you realize that you're being manipulated by a bunch of people with selfish and capitalistic interests that don't care about your life. Well, the people in the other trench, the enemy, should realize that they are also being manipulated by a bunch of people with selfish interest that don't care about their lives, and that whatever they told them to convince them that being there killing other fellow human beings is the solution, well, is at least biased, and there can be another way. Once again, I'm not convinced there's another way, but I hope there is. So, individual action, individual thinking. I think this could be a solution. If it's possible or not, I don't know. But it's not just the president of a particular country who is, authoritarian and saying you should do this and you should do that and responsible for anything. There's people behind the army, people behind the weapons. The Nazis were not just Adolf Hitler. There were a lot of people who came to power with 92% of the votes. Okay, it's true that they might have killed several other people that might have opposed the regime. But still, 92% of votes, that's a lot of votes. A lot of people that agreed on something. And it was not Hitler who was there shooting the head or asphyxiating or torturing Jews or killing the enemy in the trenches. They were just people. People from the crowd, from the public, from the citizens. In the same situation or in a similar situation, people that are around you now might do the same thing. Because they were not just created by Hitler, right? In a basement, all the Nazi army. It was composed of people that were already there. Fathers, sons, brothers, sisters, friends, acquaintances, doctors, bakers. These people agreed on torturing and mistreating and conquering by force and killing and making suffer a lot of other people. And the torture was not performed by Hitler himself. In most of the cases, it was some other person that was led by this idea, this motivation, who did the thing. There is people behind the weapons, and there is people behind the tortures, and there is there are people behind the destruction and the killing. Okay, they are brainwashed by the army, and they think that they are serving a common good, and therefore invading this particular country can be what they think is the best. Well, maybe that is what should be worked on by themselves. Just seeing, living what torture and war and killing is should be distressing enough to convince most people that they don't want it again, ever, for anybody on earth. But sometimes it's just enough to see on TV or on the internet, or to read a bit, or to be a tiny little bit sensitive and intelligent to realize that this is one of the worst things that can happen to a group of people, apart from disease, okay? Which is also very bad. I don't know at which level to compare it. But it's something that you cannot avoid because, if you're ill, you're ill. But war is such a distressful and painful and suffering element that should be avoided at all costs. Not invested on. No more money for war. But we all have to do it together. Otherwise, one trench becomes massacred by the other. Nobody wants to be massacred, right? But the politicians are not going to do it because if they could, they would have done it already. So it's up to the crowd, up to the people of the different cultures, different countries and regions to decide not to kill each other. Well, you could argue, but they are not going to do it either. Because this is what happened all across history. If they didn't do it until now, why would they do it now? Well, the economical situation and the ecological situation is such that might contribute to some awareness on this topic. And this is a different point. And these are two different things. And the communication that we have nowadays and the possibility to contact each other and to know what's happening at the other end of the world and to contact people there and ask them, how are you living this? This is hell. These are things that are happening for the first time. Global communication, ecological distress, economic collapse. This never happened before. There was no internet before. We were not conscious about the way we were affecting the weather or the climate. So, will this be enough to say, let's stop killing each other and trying to find a solution? And regarding the assholes that want to develop and sell weapons without caring about the life of the rest of us, and the politicians that are worrying about their own interest or old interests that are not useful anymore for us as a people. Let's deal with them and stop killing each other. Will this be possible or not? Time will tell.